Thanks everyone for joining us this morning. My name's Eric Edgar. I'll be presenting TOXICS Release Inventory, a tool for you. As mentioned, my name's Eric Edgar. I'm with a company called Apt Associates. We're an EPA Region 9 contractor. I am not with the EPA, but I do a lot of work for EPA headquarters. I'm out here today for this presentation. This is my first work with Region 9. Excited to be here. Apt Associates does a lot of support for the TOXICS Release Inventory program. One of the things that I do, in addition to data analysis and writing, is training for TRI reporters. And I realize that the CUPAs are not necessarily going to be reporting. And so I'm changing our normal presentation to have a little bit more on the background and ways that CUPAs may be able to use the data or overlap or maybe even coordinate efforts with TRI at a different level. So with that, my basic presentation will be a little introduction on the TOXICS Release Inventory. Then I'll show who needs to report. We'll do an overview of the TRI Form R and Form A. Those are the reporting forms used to provide information. Then we'll look at EPCRA Section 313 enforcement and accessing TRI tools and data. And kind of as mentioned, we are hoping that the TRI could be more useful for the CUPAs, for inspectors. We would love it if people were able to use the data to help with emergency response, perhaps, to know what chemicals are used on site at larger facilities. Also, you may be able to access the data and see some data trends for your facilities or communities, and that might help you with inspections. One of the big things that Region 9 would love is for more involvement with the CUPAs and perhaps coordinating with enforcement and compliance assistance. So with that, before we get into an introduction, I'm just curious who has worked with the TOXICS Release Inventory program before. Can show a quick hands. A couple. Has anyone done any filing, any reporting, any direct hands-on? Okay. So this should be fairly new for most people except a friend in the back who I guess was the TRI program director for a while, I think with Region 9. So the TOXICS Release Inventory is a public database that contains information about the chemicals that facilities use. It also contains information about the releases, waste transfer, recycling, pollution prevention. There's about 20,000 facilities nationally that report to TRI each year. I forget the number offhand, but I think it's about 60,000 to 70,000 total forms or reports of chemicals that these 20,000 facilities submit each year. And again, the public can access this data, look at what's happening near your area, in your county, in your state, or nationally. Some common questions about toxic chemical releases that TRI may help you answer is whether toxic chemicals releases are increasing or decreasing over time. And you can look at the longitudinal data from year to year on TOXICS Release Inventory. You can focus in on your town, look at who's releasing, what's being released, or you can look at very specific chemicals and know if those are being released nearby. The TOXICS Release Inventory was created in part in response to two disasters, one in Bhopal, India, where methyl isocyanate was released from a Union Carbide plant that was a terrible disaster that killed thousands and has caused long-term suffering for much of the city. Shortly thereafter, there was also a incident in Institute, West Virginia. Part of the response to these two incidents is that there was an increased awareness and concern about toxic chemicals in the United States. And the TOXICS Release Inventory was born shortly thereafter. I think the first year of reporting was 1987. So which facilities must report to TRI? There's a number of criteria which we'll discuss briefly here and a little more in depth in a second. But facilities must be in a TRI-covered sector, including primarily manufacturing. Most of the facilities are in manufacturing. Also electric utilities, specifically coal or oil, certain mining facilities, hazardous waste management, and all federal facilities are eligible for reporting whether or not they're in any of the aforementioned industries. In addition, all facilities must have the equivalent of 10 full-time employees or 20,000 hours during the course of the year. And this eliminates a lot of the smaller mom-and-pop facilities, but then does capture the larger facilities. In addition, facilities must manufacture, process, or otherwise use a certain amount of TRI toxic chemicals during that reporting year, and we'll discuss these thresholds later. What information is reported? Some of the information that's most used is the on-site releases of the toxic chemicals to the different environmental mediums, including air, water, land, and underground injection. In addition, there's transfers of these chemicals to off-site locations for further treatment or disposal. There's also waste management that's reported in the form of recycling, treatment, or energy recovery, and pollution prevention activities. Again, TRI can help you identify what chemicals are being released by the nearby TRI facilities. It can help you track increases or reduction of chemical releases over time, and it can help the community prioritize or the CUPAs prioritize where and chemical trends that are happening in their area. So this is kind of a first look at TRI reporting data. This shows total TRI releases, which includes all releases to air, water, land, and underground injection. And this is broken down by county, as you can see. And in addition, this provides the number of facilities reporting in each county. You can see in Kern County, California, leads the list in TRI chemical releases. And that has about 10,000 pounds that have been reported in 2011 alone by 42 facilities. Something to be aware is that that number may be driven by land disposal, and that isn't just, say, air or water releases that may be have more impact directly for the community. But there are a significant amount of releases there. Here we're looking at data for companies in Orange County that are sorted by the top TRI chemical releases in the area. The largest one nearby is SciTech Engineered Materials. It's a fabric coating mill, and these are more air releases, and there has been about 170,000 pounds of methanol, 120 pounds of phenol, and about 35,000 pounds of formaldehyde released to the air by this company in the past in 2011. This one, I don't have any, we'll take a closer look at this later, but this is about 4 miles away from where we are. And then you can also see that there's another couple of companies that are reporting with large releases in a variety of different industries: plastics products, ice cream and frozen dessert manufacturing, chemical wholesalers, and metals. This describes the total TRI chemical releases within Orange County by chemical, and shows that styrene, methanol, nitric acid are the largest chemical releases. In addition, phenol, nitrate compounds, formaldehyde, zinc compounds. This provides the total releases in Los Angeles County, and here you can see this is somewhat driven by petroleum refineries with Chevron, BP, Carson, ExxonMobil, Tesoro, all being on the list with large TRI chemical releases. And excuse me. this provides the industries in Los Angeles County. As mentioned, petroleum refineries are high on the list, followed by metals, electrical equipment, fabricated metals, and chemicals. And this is a detailed facility form. This is from rtk.net. This is for clean harbors in Buttonwillow, near in Kern County, I believe, near, or my apologies, it's near Bakersfield. This is the facility that has the largest amount of TRI chemical releases in the state. Here you can see that most of the releases go to land, and the largest that they dispose of is asbestos and MTBE. So what are some of the limitations of TRI data? TRI data are collected only once per year, so that doesn't give you exactly up-to-the-minute reporting. And it also doesn't tell you exactly when the chemicals are released, as some facilities are seasonal and only have kind of isolated releases. TRI doesn't cover all industry sectors, and we'll look at what industry sectors are covered in a minute. TRI doesn't cover the small facilities. TRI doesn't cover all toxic chemicals, although it does cover about 650 chemicals. TRI doesn't cover all sources of pollution. For example, transportation is exempt, so cars and trucks at a facility would not be counted. And as mentioned, TRI doesn't describe how long or how often TRI chemicals were released. So next, who needs to report? EPCRA Section 313 is the Community Right to Know Act that authorizes TRI. And each year, facilities provide their TRI reports. Again, you have to be in a covered sector, have 10 or more full-time employees. Facilities report to both the federal EPA, U.S. EPA, and as well to the state agency, or if they're on tribal land, as of this year, they report to the designated contact on their tribal land. This flowchart describes the process in determining if a facility would be required to report to TRI. First, you look if it's a covered primary NAICS code or a federal facility. If it's not, then they don't need to report. Next check would be to check if there's 10 or more employees, or the equivalent of 20,000 hours per year. Next is if they manufacture, process, or otherwise use listed Section 313 or TRI chemicals. And then if they do, then they check if thresholds have been exceeded. If all those apply, then reporting is required, and Form Rs or Form A may be submitted. This is a detailed list of the sectors that are covered. As mentioned, manufacturing covers the majority of facilities represented by the toxics release inventory. But there's also a number in metal mining, coal mining, electric utilities, and auxiliary facilities, or treatment, storage, and disposal, solvent recovery, chemical distributors, and petroleum bulk terminals. The definition of a facility is important to TRI because it determines how you aggregate your activities and how you determine your thresholds, how you determine your employee thresholds, and how much chemicals are used on site. It also determines how you define your NAICS code, whether your facility is covered or not. And perhaps differently than inspectors may do, it looks at all establishments that are continuous or adjacent. So if you had multiple buildings where multiple different activities were happening on the same site, that all would be considered a facility. And reporting would then be aggregated for all those facilities, so they would only send reports from those facilities, from a single report for that collection of establishments. So 10 or more full-time employees. This includes basically everyone that's working on the facility. This would include operational staff, administrative, contractors, sales staff, on-site drivers, and off-site direct corporate support. So that isn't just the people that would be, say, working on the on the floor. Let's see. Moving forward. TRI chemicals and chemical categories. Currently there's over 600. I've heard that it's 650. It's hard to keep straight sometimes. Individual chemicals and chemical categories that are listed. You can check the website epa.gov/TRI for a list of chemicals. This is also on the list of lists that a number of people use for checking chemicals across different reporting programs. Last year there was 16 chemicals added to the TRI list. This year hydrogen sulfide is being added back to the list of TRI chemical rules. So we also have TRI chemical categories, and this covers groups of chemicals. Primarily these include metal compound categories, and this would include any compound that contains this metal. So if there was any antimony compounds, oxides, sulfates, etc., these would all be reportable under TRI, even though the chemicals themselves are not listed individually. In addition, all your activities and releases for those range of chemicals would be aggregated under antimony compounds. There are also a list of other TRI chemical categories that include chlorophenols, cyanide compounds, diisocyanates, dioxin and dioxin-like compounds, and list goes on a little bit. Again, these are a range of chemicals that aren't individually listed, but all the activities and reporting would be aggregated within these chemical categories. So reporting to TRI, we kind of look at this as a two-part process. And so far we've looked at the first bit here where we've determined that we are required, or a facility would be required to report, and then identify the TRI chemicals, which we just did, that may be used at that facility. Next facility would be determine if they exceed the chemical thresholds, and we'll get into that. And then if a threshold is reported, then you look at what is required to report. And that would be the data that would then be available for the public to look at or analyze. So chemical threshold activities. There's thresholds for all chemicals. We look at two primary different groups. There are the PBT chemicals and non-PBT chemicals, and PBT are persistent, bioaccumulative, or toxic chemicals. And for each chemical, we classify thresholds with manufacturing activities, processing activities, or otherwise use activities. So for the non-PBT chemicals, we look at different thresholds. For manufacturing and for processing, if the facility manufactures or processes over 25,000 pounds of a non-PBT chemical during the reporting year, then it's said that they are exceeding threshold and they would be required to report. For otherwise use for non-PBT chemicals, there's a lower threshold, and that's 10,000 pounds during the reporting year. For the PBT chemicals, there's a smaller subset, and these have a different and lower threshold, and because these are thought to be, these are more toxic, perhaps more dangerous, there are lower thresholds, and which makes it more likely that the facilities would be required to report for these chemicals. Right now, I think it's 20 chemicals and 20 chemical compounds that are defined as PBTs. So here's a list of our PBT chemicals that are subject to separate and lower thresholds. For some of these, it's 100 pounds per year. For some of these, it's 10 pounds per year. And for dioxin and dioxin-like compounds, this is a special one. It's the threshold is 0.1 grams per year. Notice that that's a very, very low concentration, and that results in a lot of facilities that have combustion processes reporting for dioxin and dioxin-like compounds. Also note that it's in grams per year. Everywhere else within TRI we use pounds, and that dioxin and dioxin-like compounds are the only time that that information is reported in grams. So manufacturing activities, what's included? The obvious is if you manufacture a chemical, and that would be intentionally producing a chemical for sale, for distribution, or for on-site processing. So if you're a chemical facility and you manufacture a chemical and then react it into another chemical, that's manufacturing. In addition, coincidentally producing chemicals as impurities or byproducts, that counts as well. And also, importing counts. If you're a facility and you require that a chemical is brought in from overseas, even though you did not manufacture that chemical directly on your site, you're responsible for its being introduced to the local environment. And that is counted as importing, which is then a manufacturing activity. Next are processing activities, and these cover a wide range of things. I think for me as a chemical engineer, the most obvious use is to use as a reactant to manufacture other chemical products. But chemicals, of course, can also be added as formulation components or added into articles. Other things that count are repackaging for distribution. If you have a facility that takes a large quantity and then puts it into smaller containers for sale, that counts as a processing activity. Anything that's sent off-site for recycling counts as well. And also, incidentally, processing impurities that came into your facility, that also counts as a processing activity. So then otherwise use covers a wide range of other activities. For one would be chemical processing aid. For example, if you have a chemical that's used as a solvent or a catalyst, that would be otherwise used. So you'd look at the amount of solvent or catalyst that's being used or introduced to your process in that year, and that would count towards your threshold. Other are manufacturing aids, lubricants, refrigerants that are used in your process, and ancillary activities. And this covers a wide range of activities. They give an example here of fabrication and or use of tools in your process, if those have or use TRI chemicals, and installation of piping and process-related equipment. What that wouldn't include, however, is construction-related activities. So pipes in your building that are being constructed would not count. Also, disposal treatment for destruction on site or stabilization. Those also count as otherwise use. So imagine that there's some hazardous waste treaters that would then count their TRI chemical activities as otherwise use. Also, there's a number of reporting exemptions. I mentioned a moment ago that buildings, for example, if TRI chemicals are used in your building, that doesn't count towards your activities. A few of the exemptions: de minimis. For most chemicals, there are de minimis limits that are either 1% or 0.1%. And if you're using TRI chemicals below that percentage, it's not reportable. So this does allow a number of impurities and byproducts to not be TRI reportable. But if they do get concentrated into a higher concentration, then they do become TRI reportable. Articles, if there's a a discrete article that contains a TRI chemical. An example that we use is a doorknob. If you have a doorknob manufacturing facility, there may be TRI chemicals in that doorknob, but because it comes in as a if you put that doorknob onto a door, that doesn't count as a TRI activity because it remains intact. Also, all laboratory activities are exempt. Well, there are some requirements around there. Don't need to jump into those. But also for coal mining and metal mining, overburden. There's a number of exemptions with overburden that doesn't require ground that's being moved to be reported. Okay, so that's threshold determination. We've determined excuse me, that our facility is required to report and they've exceeded the chemical threshold. And now we want to get into an overview of what's contained in the Form R and Form A. And this is what facilities would report and what you as the public might be able to access. And I should have mentioned this earlier. If anyone has any questions, please raise your hand and ask. I'd love to answer some questions, and please.
I came in late, and I just wanted to clarify that TRI is more of a database.
Correct.
As far as the reporting requirement, if they don't report, does the facility become liable or?
Yes. So the question was about if TRI is a public database, and yes, it is. And if there are enforcement or if there's liability, and yes, there are. It's not a voluntary reporting activity. And shortly we'll get into enforcement of for facilities that have not been reporting to TRI or have been incorrectly reporting to TRI. So as mentioned, it's a two-part process. We've determined the facility is required to report. The next step is release and waste management reporting. Here we'll identify total releases that happen on site and also transfers that happen off site. We'll also identify waste management practices that may happen at a facility and also identify pollution prevention activities. Once that's done and calculations are performed, a facility will use TryMeWeb to complete the Form R, Form A. I say TryMeWeb, TRI is moving towards electronic reporting. It's not required just yet, but there's a proposed rule that will require federal electronic reporting. I understand that a lot of the activities in California now require electronic reporting. Is that correct? So I don't think this should be too much of a change for a lot of folks. Without jumping too much into it, TryMeWeb also provides a lot of data checking and validation steps that can help prevent reporting errors. So with the TRI Form R and Form A, these are the forms that facilities are required to submit. There's two types of information on this form, very broadly. First off is the facility-specific information, and both Form R and Form A cover these. Next, there's chemical-specific information, and Form R is the more thorough form that has detailed release and waste management and pollution prevention information included. And then Form A is more limited, and we'll discuss Form A a little bit more in a second, but you don't provide as much detailed or quantitative information on a Form A. One form is submitted to EPA, U.S. EPA, and one form is submitted to your local EPA or your tribe for each chemical or chemical category that exceeds thresholds. As mentioned, in the old days, all reporting was done via paper forms, and now the vast majority is filed electronically. So I mentioned the Form A. This is a lower detail form. There's less quantitative information, and because of that, only certain times you qualify to submit a Form A for certain chemicals. So in order to submit a Form A in lieu of a more detailed Form R, the chemical must not be a PBT chemical, and then must meet a few different criteria. And we call this the alternative threshold. And the facility must not exceed 1 million pounds of manufacture, process, or otherwise use of that chemical, and not exceed 500 pounds of total waste management, including releases, recycling, energy recovery, and treatment for that chemical. So if this alternative threshold is met, you have the option to file a Form A in lieu of a Form R. Many facilities will submit a combination of Form A's and Form R's. And something to note is that the Form A, I believe, is relatively similar in detail to the information that's contained in the hazardous material business plans, and that the hazardous material business plans don't require any release reporting, but reports what chemicals are on site. And that's very similar to what's done with the Form A. So this is a breakdown of these different sections of information that's contained in a Form R and Form A that facilities would submit, and thus the public would be able to find. First section is reporting years. Nothing too great about that. Next section is trade secret information. This allows facilities, if they have a genuine trade secret, to provide a generic name in lieu of the trade secret chemical. And this is provided because it is a public database, and if there is a genuine trade secret, then companies can apply and then become approved to submit generic information in lieu of the exact chemical activity. Section 3 is certification, where you have senior management within your facility sign off on the forms. The next is facility information, and you report your facility name, the TRI facility ID, and your address. Each facility is assigned a unique TRI facility ID number, and this number tracks with the facility throughout longitudinally in time with that very specific facility. That TRI facility ID number also doesn't change if management changes. So if there's a company that has a facility and it is then sold to another owner, the ownership may change, but the TRI facility ID would then definitely stay the same. One of the big reasons to do this is this allows for tracking a facility over time longitudinally using a unique identifier, and then that doesn't get lost, say, when an ownership change happens. Facilities also provide information about whether they're a multi-establishment. There is a rule that you can break down and do some reporting with it, by establishments within your facility, if that makes sense to do so. Not many facilities do that. But you also indicate if you're a federal facility or a government-owned contractor. Next section is technical contact, and that's a contact that EPA may contact directly if EPA had any questions about or concerns about the data. Next is a public contact. So every facility indicates a public contact that's listed in the public database that anyone in the public may be able to call up and ask the facilities questions about their TRI reporting. Then you provide your NAICS code. Many facilities report multiple NAICS codes if they're involved in multiple activities, and Dun and Bradstreet number. Next, they then provide parent company information, and TRI has been working on standardizing parent company name and information kind of on a federal level, so that activities nationally can be looked at more cohesively at the parent company level. So you could look at, say, Dow Chemical Company, and by identifying just the parent company, you could roll up all their activities in the United States, or if you were more concerned on the state in California or So the second part of these forms is the chemical-specific information. So Form R and Form A both cover all the facility information. Form R and Form A also cover the toxic chemical identity and also indicate if it's a mixture component, that's kind of used as the generic identifier. At this point, for Form A, that's the lower detail form, Form A is complete. Form R then covers next 3 to 8 sections, which provide a slew of information about chemical activities, amount on site, releases, transfers, waste management, pollution prevention, and source reduction. So for Form R, you'd then indicate if you do process, manufacture, or otherwise use the chemical at your facility. A lot of facilities would include multiple activities because it's quite possible to do more than one of these at a facility. Next, facilities indicate the maximum amount of that TRI chemical they have on site during the calendar year, and this is provided in a range code. I think this is very similar to Tier 2 or hazardous materials business plan reporting. Next, provide Section 5 quantity entering each environmental medium on site. This is kind of the biggest area for TRI is the total releases. And here it's broken up into 5 subcategories. Fugitive or non-point air emissions, stack or point air emissions, discharges to receiving streams or water bodies, underground injection, and disposal to land on site. A lot of the data that people look at most are the air emissions, as that impacts perhaps the communities nearby facilities most directly. Next, Section 6 discusses transfer of waste to off-site locations, including discharges to publicly owned treatment works and other off-site locations such as RCRA waste handlers. Section 6.2 also asks that you include the ultimate treatment method to show that how this chemical was ultimately disposed of or treated off-site. Section 7 then covers your on-site waste management, and this covers waste treatment methods and efficiency. Under this section, you indicate the general waste stream, whether it's a gaseous wastewater, liquid, or solid stream, and then the waste treatment methods that are performed, and then also the waste treatment efficiency. The public can also, of course, go look at this, and then they can see different treatment methods that are performed at some facilities in their area, or maybe that aren't performed at some facilities. The next section is on-site energy recovery. So if a facility combusts a TRI chemical for recovered energy in the form of a kiln, a furnace, or boiler, that's reported. And next is on-site recycling processes. So facilities then indicate if they do any recycling. The primary categories that are listed on the form are for metal recoveries, solvent recovery, or other recycling processes. Something to note that total quantities managed are not reported directly in Section 7. So the total amount of treatment or recycling is not directly reported here. It is reported in Section 8, which is a little bit detailed, and I'll go through this quickly, I promise. 8.1 deals with your total releases. 8.2 and 8.3 aggregates your amount of energy recovery. 8.4 and 8.5 deal with amount recycled on site. 8.6 and 8.7 deal with quantity treated. Something unique about Section 8 is that it also has you provide information for 4 years rather than just your current year. And the reason this is done is that this allows facilities and also the public to look at trends in reporting and projections into the future. If there's going to be any, for example, if you're going to be implementing any source reduction or pollution prevention activities, your total quantities may decrease or shift where they're going. If you're doing source reduction, you may be reducing your numbers entirely. If you're doing pollution prevention, you may be moving away from releases and getting more into energy recovery, recycling, or treatment. So that may shift numbers around. TryMeWeb, this is a screenshot from TryMeWeb. TryMeWeb has a benefit for reporters in that it brings in information from the prior reporting year, so that doesn't need to be entered. And it also has a calculator to do current year reporting. The last couple of sections on Form R are 8.8, quantity released to environment as a result of remedial action, catastrophic events, or one-time events not associated with the production processes. That's the actual name on the form. I think it's a little long. But what it does is it summarizes activities that aren't associated with your traditional production processes. More directly, this can be a result of spills. So this is something that may be much more relevant to inspectors, is that any TRI chemicals that would be spilled would be reported in Section 8.8. Other things would be remedial actions. Any releases resulting from catastrophic events, perhaps pipes break because of, say, an earthquake or something, releases could be reported under Section 8.8 there. 8.9 provides a production ratio or activity index, and that allows public to see if the amount of chemical on site, how much is being used or manufactured or processed, is increasing or decreasing from year to year. Next is source reduction, where facilities indicate any methods that they've implemented for source reduction, and also methods to identify these activities. Source reduction can cover a wide range of things, from as basic as using different types of containers. If you move from a smaller container to a larger container, you likely have less waste because there's less residual chemical in these containers. It can cover switching processes. For example, if you move to a different soldering process that creates less dross, that would be something you can indicate there. There's a wide range, and EPA is really trying to encourage facilities to report more of their source reduction activities, so the public has more knowledge about what is being done for source reduction. Last section is miscellaneous information, where the facility can tell EPA anything that they want if there are other reasons for changes in reporting, or if a facility is closing or changing ownership. But that doesn't have too much impact to CUPAs. But reason we present all that information is EPA was hoping to get some of this information to the CUPAs so that they understand what TRI is and how TRI can relate to the CUPA system. And something that EPA wants to stress is that the information reported to the CUPAs is often the same or similar to what is reported to TRI. And EPA would hope that TRI inspectors and CUPA inspectors would be looking for closely related violations, and that it might be potentially possible to coordinate efforts on enforcement and inspections. So this slide indicates that CUPA forms satisfy federal reporting requirements for Section 312 of EPCRA, and I can't get into too much detail. I mentioned this because CUPAs, as I understand, are able to cover the EPCRA 302 to 312, but they're not able to cover 313 directly at this point. I see a nodding, so I think I have that right. But EPA does recognize that there's a lot of potential overlap with TRI that CUPAs could be involved with. I indicate this on the hazardous material business slide, and indicate that CUPA forms contain information that may be required to be reported to TRI. Here you indicate the hazardous component that is contained within each of your mixtures. And very similarly, TRI has you do this, except it's a chemical look rather than what's this mixture that contains TRI chemicals. So the information is very similar in what's being gathered. And so hopefully there's some overlap that could be worked with. MSDS sheets show chemicals that may be required to be reported to TRI. Here you can see that for a lead acid battery, the different components are listed and with their CAS number and weight ranges. Here this MSDS also includes average. Something that is also included in MSDS sheets, which you may or may not have noticed, is that TRI chemicals specifically are listed in a separate section. And here for lead acid batteries, lead and sulfuric acid and their average weights are listed in this MSDS. So this is one way that facilities or CUPAs could find information about what TRI chemicals are being used at a facility. So next we get into EPRA Section 313 enforcement. Excuse me. And there are some fairly big penalties that can be involved with not reporting to TRI or failing to report or reporting incorrect information. Non-federal facilities may be subject to penalties up to $37,500 per day per violation. Companies can also be subject to citizen suits for not reporting. And then there are exceptions if facilities realize that they've been not reporting or reporting incorrectly. They're able to say to EPA that we haven't been, and then receive reduced penalties or understanding. So this slide presents the biggest EPRA Section 313 TRI enforcement cases in 2011. And you can see that there's some fairly large penalties associated with these. Here we can see that a lot of the facilities are located in Texas, but there is one of the larger ones which is from California from 2011. This is a slide that we added to the presentation yesterday. The press release date is for February 6, 2013. And EPA just reached a settlement with 3 gold mine facilities with the Barrick Gold Corporation for their failure to submit timely, complete, or correct TRI forms in 4 years for toxic chemicals including cyanide compounds, lead compounds, and mercury compounds. This was for 3 mines in Nevada, and there's a total of $278,000 in fines. In addition, EPA is requiring that they spend $340,000 to conduct an environmentally beneficial project. In this case, they're asking the facility to identify metal compounds that are used in their oxidizing process, which will have benefit to the public with knowing more about what chemicals are used. In addition, they're subject to up to an additional $25,000 for potential violation at other facilities at a sum of $10,000 per violation. And there's going to be a large audit of TRI reporting from 2005 to 2011 for all the facilities under the Barrick Corporation. In total, it's $868,000 potential total settlement, over $600,000 that is guaranteed. So that is a pretty big stick that the EPA is able to use to help make sure that TRI reporting is occurring. If any of the CUPAs have any suspicion of facilities that may be reporting or may be incorrectly reporting, Russ Frazier and Lily Lee would be delighted for the CUPAs to contact them with any leads or any suggestions about collaboration. Their contact information is here, and I'll present it again, I think, at the end of the presentation. The other is if anyone would like to get in touch with them, please come up and see me afterwards and leave a business card or an email address, and I'd be glad to put you in touch with Russ and Lily at TRI. So next, we get into accessing TRI tools and data. And this is ways that the public or CUPAs or anyone, analysts such as myself or facilities, would be able to get in and look at TRI information, TRI data, TRI tools. First is, of course, we have a website, and here you can find reporting materials and guidance. This also includes information such as the regulations that are involved with TRI. And you can look at reporting guidance, frequently asked questions, see if there are things that may be applied to your facilities within the frequently asked questions. Next is accessing TRI data, and probably the key product is the TRI National Analysis. This is, I think, about a 90-page, I think it's about 90-page booklet that's produced every year that kind of summarizes on a national level what's provided to the TOXICS release inventory. This provides an overview of releases, look at some of the key facilities and industries, and trends year by year. Here's a list of EPA tools that may be used to access TRI data. Each kind of serve a different purpose. TRI, and all of them can be accessed through EnviroFacts on the EPA website. TRI Explorer is a really good tool for kind of general use. It generates reports on releases, transfers, etc. By facility or by chemical, geographic area, industry. So you can look at a wide range of things through there. TRI Form R and Form A download is a really specific one that allows you to dive into kind of the most nuts and bolts details of TRI data. I use that for looking, for example, at data that may not be available at the lower levels, some of which is whether facilities are processing, manufacturing, or otherwise using TRI chemicals on site, and how they do so. I find in what I do, it's nice to know how the facilities are reporting what they're using the TRI chemicals on site for with the processing, manufacturing, or otherwise use activities. And maybe that's something that the CUPAs could also use. Here are a few other tools that can be used. TRI.net is a downloadable application. It's a really powerful tool that searches the database using SQL that is already done for you, but it aggregates very nicely, makes reports that can be exported into Microsoft Excel. ECHO is Enforcement and Compliance History Online, which provides information on more than TRI. But it's kind of a great one-stop resource for looking up a lot of information for different facilities, and this will include whether they've been in compliance and also other information in other programs. RTK.net is a great tool online that allows you to look at information on different facilities. When we looked at the Clean Harbors snapshot, that was an RTK. That was from RTK.net. My RTK is an EPA application that is designed for mobile devices, and in just a minute we'll take a look at my RTK for some Orange County facilities and the SciTech facility we looked at earlier. In addition, there's a great app for Android devices. It's called TRI Mobile that looks at TRI facilities and provides great snapshots. So here's a look at my RTK. I wish we could do a live demonstration. I don't have wireless on this device here, unfortunately, but we can do some screenshots. So I have the address for the Hyatt Regency plugged in here. And after running that, this provides a map that has all the different facilities nearby that report to EPA, and specifically TRI. The facilities with the dark blue pins are TRI reporters, and gray facilities are non-TRI reporters, but they're, I think, listed in Envirofax database. You can click on any of these facilities and get more information. Here I'm going to a list view and looking at specifically SciTech engineered materials. That happens to be 3.5 miles from the Hyatt here, and they have the highest releases in Orange County with over 300,000 pounds. This brings up our report for the facility, and this provides some of the information such as location, TOXICS release inventory ID or facility ID, and that's a number that you can use to kind of track that facility. You can see some context with this, that this facility accounts for 36% of TRI releases within the county out of 123 counties and facilities in Orange County. Nationally, for textiles, this is the second largest out of 133 TRI facilities. So scrolling down, look at on-site release totals. This facility has all its TRI on-site releases to the air. None go to water or land. And you can see that methanol is released in very large quantities. Almost 170,000 pounds were released to the air in 2011. Phenol was released in really large quantities. 120,000 was released in 2011. And formaldehyde was released in high quantities. Also, if you continue scrolling down, you can look at compliance information. And here we can see that this facility has actually been in significant non-compliance for 10 quarters in the past 3 years. So I think this tool, MyRTK, is a great tool. You can find it at that URL listed below. Also, if you just Google MyRTK, you'll get directed immediately to this tool. Next, coming back to how the TRI program and CUPAs can work together. And EPA would love to, with the TRI program, would love to coordinate enforcement if that was at all possible, and mutual referrals if either TRI or the CUPA suspect violations. The TRI program, EPA Region 9, has volunteered to analyze data for your jurisdiction and provide information about specific facilities or patterns within your jurisdiction if you would like them to do so. In addition, if interested, the CUPAs could hand out information about TRI. We have some handouts in the back that you can take a look at. TRI Region 9 has offered to prepare materials that you could distribute or hand out. Region 9 is also building some electronic tools, including widgets that could be included on websites to help provide more information about TRI. And if anyone else had any other ideas about collaboration between TRI and CUPAs, it would be great to share them or put you in contact with Lily and Russ, and they would be delighted to speak with you about any other ideas for collaboration. Again, if you're interested, these are their contact information. It's also included on the California fact sheet that we have in the back of the room on the table. And that wraps us up. It's a little bit early. My apologies on that, but we can definitely stay for some questions and answers. I'd be thrilled to go back and look at some of the data that we presented earlier if you're curious to see what's happening in California or Orange or Los Angeles County.
TRI still collect the maximum amount of chemical on site?
Yes, TRI, the question is if TRI collects the information about the maximum amount on site during the reporting year. Yes, that is Form R, Section R, Form R, Section 4 in Part 2. And facilities report using range codes, the maximum amount of site during a reporting year. I think that could be something that could be really useful to CUPAs and inspectors because that quantifies kind of the potential for how much of a toxic chemical may be on site during an emergency response.
I think could potentially be useful under the chemicals. Is the PBT chemicals have much lower thresholds?
That's correct.
25,000 pounds, 20 pounds.
Correct.
So there's a lot more potential for having a file.
Yes.
And keeping businesses in your jurisdiction viable, I think it would be especially important to suggest to people that have those chemicals that they contact EPA to see if they have to file. Because I know this is historical, but 10 years ago, EPA's position in Region 9 was, if you call us and we happen to come in and inspect you the next day, then basically it's an issue we'll work with you on. If you think you might have to file and you're going to call us, but you don't, you walk in the next day, you're a non-filer.
Yes.
And at that time, the penalty was, everybody was talking about the big penalties per violation per day. Less than that, but it was still $25,000 per year per chemical. And that would be a pretty healthy gift to an awful lot of business.
Yes, that's true. Along just kind of summarizing, the PBT chemicals have significantly lower reporting thresholds and are much more likely to be reported as a result of the lower thresholds. The thresholds are about 100 pounds for a handful of chemicals. It's 10 pounds per year for a number of other chemicals, and then 0.1 pounds for dioxin and 0.1 grams for dioxin and dioxin-like compounds. And these are chemicals that are extremely likely to be required to be reported and may be chemicals that are overlooked by facilities that may be in your jurisdiction. Do we have any other questions?
Are you saying that the maximum amount should not be exceeded?
So the maximum amount on site, it's just reporting the amount that you have, and you have different range categories that you can report into. There's no limit on how much you can have on site through TRI. It's just merely reporting the information of how much is on site during the reporting year.
We have this issue about cap and trade. Is the TRI being used as the database for that?
No, the TRI is not being used as a database for cap and trade. There's carbon dioxide, for one, is not a TRI reportable chemical, so there's no direct information. I know there is the greenhouse gas inventory, or I forget the exact name, but there is a new EPA product out that provides an amount of greenhouse gas release by large facilities in the country. I don't know if that would be used directly for any cap and trade activities, however, I suspect not. Please.
A little more on the otherwise used category?
Sure. Let me scroll back up. Otherwise use is really covers a lot.
No storage at all?
No, that's a very good point. I think Yes, got it. Storage, that's a very good point. I'm glad you brought that up. Storage in itself is not a TRI reportable activity. Merely having the chemical on site does not count as manufacturing, processing, or otherwise use. And so if a facility has a chemical that's on site for the entire reporting year, but it's not introduced to any of its processes or manufactured or otherwise used, then it's likely that wouldn't be reportable. So storage in itself is not a TRI reportable activity.
You mentioned earlier about spills. Some of the storage facilities have spills.
Let's see. I don't know right offhand if incidental releases themselves count towards reporting thresholds. That would be reported, if the TRI chemical was required to be reported, that would be reported in Section 8.8 for the incidental releases. As far as if releases are an activity that towards a threshold, I'm not entirely sure if that is. But if you are then performing waste management on that, then I think that does count. So that is likely. Is that?
That's really the question. And I know from a Superfund perspective that cleanup volume or processing volumes associated with cleanup don't count towards the threshold. However, if you reach the threshold by other criteria, you have to report.
Okay.
It's a little bit, but it may be somewhat also or otherwise used as a lower threshold.
Otherwise use is a lower threshold for the non-PBT chemicals. It's the same for the PBT chemicals. So, yeah. Do we have any other questions? All right. Well, thank you for attending bright and early this Thursday morning. If anyone would like to get in contact with Russ or Lily, please come up and speak with me, leave a card, leave an email. I'd be delighted to put you in contact with them. If you have any other questions about TRI, I will be sitting in the exhibitors hallway at the EPA booth until noon, so please come and say hello. Otherwise, thanks for attending and have a great day.